The Open Source Chat Show, Hacktoberfest Special, every Friday, October 2021, brought to you by Women Who Code Frontend. This is the third episode of the Open Source Chat Show, and we will talk in particular about the different types of open source contributions you can make, which are not just limited to writing code. Both our speakers today have a lot of useful insights to share about their open source journeys and how they have contributed to open source in various ways. Quick recap about our previous episodes. In the first episode, we discussed tips on how to make the most out of the open source contributions, why it is important to have a motivation, which will in turn help you better decide what you want to do, and also how to be a little selfish in choosing what you want to do with open source. In the second episode, we discussed tips about how to pick an open source project itself, not to be overwhelmed, and also learned about open source licenses. The key message from our speakers was that open source is for everyone and not to restrict yourself. Patience is the key, sky is the limit. Welcome to the third episode. I am your host, Princiya Sequeira. Without further delay, let's get started with Kashish and Vani and get to know about their open source adventures.
Myself. So my name is Kashish Madan and I'm from India. I just completed my bachelor's degree in August 2021 and then I started off with my first job at Microsoft. Prior to that, I have had around 4 internship experience, out of which 3 of them were software engineering based roles and one of them was a research internship basically. Just to give you a background on why open source and I am like related to, because of which I am actually here. Since that research internship was with the university in France, and they are an open source organization. So this is where basically my exact actual open source journey started. But before that, I used to contribute to open source, but I didn't really know that I was contributing to open source. So basically, like when you're trying to host your project onto GitHub, no matter what the idea behind it is, and no matter how many people are collaborating together, once you put it onto the website, once it is open to everybody, it is actually open source. So like people can contribute to you, they can reach out to you, ask you more about it, and just chime in to your chat and just say, hey, I love your project, can you tell me more about it? So this is how the idea behind the my open source journey started.
So I'm Vani Chitkara and I'm based in New Delhi, India. So I'm a third year engineering student. Like I'm doing my engineering in electronics and communication engineering. So technically not from a CS and IT background. And I started my open source contribution last year during Hacktoberfest. Like I was very well versed with web development and I was thinking that, okay, I'm doing projects and just owning my skills. So like what next should I do to contribute to web development? So that's when the thought of open source came to me, and I just searched up YouTube and blogs and just thought that how should I get started. So I just got to know that Hacktoberfest is around the corner in October. So I was like, okay, why not start with this? So after Hacktoberfest, I gained a little bit of confidence that, okay, I can contribute. And this is not something that is very bizarre to me. So after that, I tried to apply to outreachy in the summer cohort. So I applied in February, and then like eventually I got selected as an intern for the May 2021 cohort, and I worked with Open Archive, which is a archiving organization. So they're basically working for human rights and like the citizen journalists who have video evidences in their phones and they want to have them archived safely. So, like I work for them in the social media domain, so I help them promote their app, and I do research about the competitors and everything. So that's my job. I'm basically a social media researcher and analyst, and I'm also the club lead at the Google Developer Student Club at my university. So that's how I all like encourage other people to contribute to open source as well. So that has been my journey in open source till now.
You see girls not being interested in tech, but they're like very good in studies, so they just go and pursue it and then they excel in that. So mine was quite opposite. So I started with a basic web development in class 5. So I won a competition in my school. I came third. I used to design those websites and stuff. So that is when I got hooked up onto this. But before like getting into computer science, I was mainly interested into electrical engineering side. So I used to make and break things at my home, take the screwdriver every single place, and just do all of that every single time. By the time I reached my class 10th, so at the end of it, my teacher, just in a very general way, they taught us, how to print the table of 5 in C programming. So that day I realized, what power do I have and what kind of things I can actually go and automate, because I was able to automate this particular thing, right? I went back home and I realized that, what does this hash include? What is this void mean? I Googled every single thing up. I tried to learn, but I couldn't really know much because I didn't really have the resources and the guidance which I really wanted at that time. But then, when I knew that I had to enter 11th and 12th, I had to pursue CS in that particular domain. So since I told you before, right, I wasn't really good at math and science for a few years of my journey. I was actually, not coping up well in my classes. So to my surprise, like my teachers told my parents that she'll not be able to do the STEM courses. Just don't send her into those areas. It is just a minor interest area that she might have discovered, but she's not a good fit for this one. Look, how many grades are in a B range or in a range or something of that sort. So even my parents got a little bit convinced, and maybe commerce is the right way for her. So I had to sit back and make everybody believe that I can actually do this. And for that I had to change my school. So since the teachers weren't supporting, I had to go to a school where actually the teachers could support me on that particular part. So for the entire 2 years of my +2, I was completely in a way that I had to prove myself. I had to do this thing right. I had to do every single thing. So those were kind of hard for me. But once the journey started, like once I started doing my BTech, I entered engineering, and things kind of made their own way. I tried to pursue whatever I really liked, and the journey of tech and the interest in me continued till here where I am actually. So yeah, this is the up like major roller coaster ride, I should say. But yeah, I'm happy where I am right now.
Yeah, so like when I was 11, so my parents got me a computer, and before that, I used to like just do painting on the computer in my computer lab in the school. So I was really interested in computers since I was a kid, and my mom is a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering, computer science graduate. So she was the one who sparked the interest in computers in me. So when I got the computer, and in school I was learning HTML, so I just used to come back home and practice it on my computer, and that's how I got into tech. Like, okay, this is something that I was really enjoying, because even the slightest commands of HTML had me brainstorming. So I was liking that feeling of when your brain is whizzing around and okay, how can I do this and what next. So I used to just Google around, okay, after HTML, what all can I learn. But then studies came along, and I took science stream in 11th and 12th, and then I got introduced to C++ coding. So like generally the guys in my school used to generalize that girls don't know coding, or they aren't worthy enough to sit in the computer lab, just because some girls like usually ran into some bugs. And I was very like it felt very demotivating, and like very that inferiority complex, that okay, these guys, like what do they even think of them. So just to prove them, I used to study extra in the coding part, and then I scored the highest in the computer science, and like the board exams that we have. So after like I gave JE, which is a competitive exam to get into engineering colleges, I was expecting to get into computer science, but my marks weren't good enough, so I had to settle with electronics. But then balancing subjects of electronics, like the core subjects and then coding, had been a little bit of difficult. But since the lockdown was imposed, I got some extra time to just race around with the people in CSC and IT. And like my journey has been pretty good till now. And like even the people from EC, like my juniors, they really look up to me as someone who's from a non-tech background, like in the engineering department, but she's doing so well in tech as well. So it's very like it feels very good that I get the opportunity to inspire my juniors and my peers as well.
take this up. So hi, nice question, by the way. So like during my first internship, I really wasn't even on GitHub, to be very honest. But I had a background in Java and C++. So I just, went on, applied to it because I was very active on LinkedIn from the beginning. And at that time, LinkedIn wasn't really very much, famous for it the way it is right now. But still, LinkedIn helped me a lot at the time to apply for that one internship. I didn't really have very nice skills to, actually contribute to the place that I actually went to. So there I used to, basically just go through the customer flows, like how the data is being transferred from one place to another, and just, suggest them different ways and try out different ways and how to make it efficient or somewhat related to that. But yeah, later on when I, started doing more internships and stuff, and I had my GitHub profile ready in my second year, so that is when, many people reached out to me via email because I had a good GitHub profile. So I can infer from that, that if you have a good GitHub profile, then I think people will actually go and look up to it from your resume. You have the link attached. They'll actually go and see your work, so that your credibility increases when you just write down things on your resume on versus, you have actually it available on your GitHub profile. So I think that is my take on it. But Vani, if you'd like to add something, please feel free to add.
So actually, like my university requires people to do internships since they are from like since the beginning of first year. So in first year, I did an internship which was not like technical related, because in first year I didn't have enough skills to bag an internship which required like a lot of coding. So that was a content developer internship, and then in second year I did a winter internship, like that was for 1 month, which was based on making website based on Angular and TypeScript. So after that only I got enough confidence that okay, like I have enough open source contributions, and then I am confident in my skills. So I just went on to apply to Outreachy. And after Outreachy, like while the internship was going on, I had another mentorship program from a company. So I was a mentee there, and my mentor, like we used to engage about open source, and I told him all that I do for Open Archive, and he was quite impressed with my open source contributions, and he directly just promoted me for an direct internship offer without any interview or stuff. So that was a big break for me, and like it helped me to get a very big internship. Like I'll be interning there after my third year ends, which is like next summer. So I'm looking forward to it, and definitely out like this outreach internship helped me, and like the open source contributions helped me to get that internship. Like when I was selecting the projects during my contribution period, one of them was based on coding, like which was just because like I was really to coding, but the later two projects that I selected was based one on design and one on social media marketing, which was the Open Archive project. So while I was working on the contributions for Open Archive, we mainly had a task of just improving their social media reach and how they can collaborate more with other people in their own domain, like let's say organizations like Witness and Article 19. There are a lot of organizations with which you can collaborate to enhance your reach out there. So we were the ones working on there. So like definitely some programs like GSOC and MLH don't have any non-coding based projects, but Outreach certainly does have one. Like most of the projects are based on research, documentation, and marketing, and maybe just enhancing the community relations, because like even for a project you need to engage the community so that they come back and make contributions to projects even more. So if you don't engage the community at all, the people might not feel engaged enough to and attached enough to the project to keep on contributing without getting any monetary benefits in return. So and these projects also help people from other domains, like it's not only engineers and coders applying to these internships, and other people from domains which are not based on tech. So they usually get their big break from internships like Outreachy. Like my co-intern, she's a designer, so it was her big break into this designing stuff. Like she used to work on Figma and made the social media posts, and she was excellent at it. So if you don't have any coding skills and don't feel confident enough that okay, I might not be able to get into this internship with a coding project, you can always go for a non-coding one, because these projects usually don't have a big crowd, because most of the time people who know how to code apply to these internships, and the people who actually have skills like marketing and management, they don't apply to these internships usually. So if these kind of projects are available for them, they readily grab them, and even the mentors are very happy that they have a crowd with which they want to work in future. So like these kind of projects are really amazing, and my contribution has been great so far. Like even I'm working with Open Archive even after my internship has ended, so I'm working on contract base with them.
So majorly what I have noticed is that once you start getting involved in the community, no matter in what way, like Vani also talked about, right? You have marketing, you have content development, you also have documentation part. And even apart from that, if you say that you are interested in coding, but you're not, a good coder, or you can't really, improve them, their, like fix their bugs or something. But there's this one particular way which I also learned during my internship, was that even if you have a very big project, where you have a lot of REST APIs and stuff going on, so you actually have different tools by which you can create a documentation for those APIs. So there are a lot of people who join projects and they only like work on a tool. So you just add like one particular code so that this API will work after clicking on this particular button. So that it is basically like only one particular tool, so you have to like write one particular line and it creates that automated documentation. So I think one of them would be like, you can just check up, I think it's JUnit and stuff. So just go and check. Once you like write your test cases there, it automatically creates up a basic documentation for your website, for your REST API applications. And I think, yeah, there's this Swagger too as well. So I used Swagger basically for my documentation. So like once you write your test cases, your APIs are ready, so you can use Swagger to create those documentations automatically. So there's not much coding involved here, so you just have to go to the website, just see what do you actually have to, like, press the button and drag and drop stuff, and your documentation page is created. So this is one way that you can contribute. The other is basically which leads you up to a role of a DevRel engineer. So we have this very hyped term called DevRel. I also got to know about it once somebody from Google reached out to me, and I knew that this wasn't something which I was interested in, but I got to know about the role through them. So I'll just brief you all a little bit on that. So what really happens is, since Google has a lot of technologies and they have a lot of open source projects opened up, say Flutter, people work on Flutter, people contribute to Flutter. So they have other projects as well. So they want somebody to host more events on those particular topics. They want somebody to engage with the community, to engage with the social media posts, and people who are actually actively participating in those hashtag 100 days of code and stuff. So they want those community to actually interact with their project on GitHub and elsewhere. So those DevRel engineers, they start to work on assigning these people. So they are like managers, they're like social media people. They also work on documentation and stuff. So they kind of are a 360-degree holistic role of different kind of people. So you become a DevRel engineer through that. So there are different kinds of things that you can do apart from just coding for the open source part.
Some other things that I can think of, what you can do with open source contributions, or even for Hacktoberfest itself, right? What you can do is you can maybe help maintainers in triaging the issues. So there will be like a lot of issues on certain projects. So first, so some of the help that maintainers need sometimes is to first validate if the bug is true, and then label it accordingly, so to confirm if it's a bug. So for this, yeah, you can find out if you have to actually run the project, if you're familiar with it, and then confirm it's a bug. And then yeah, just maybe look into the older issues, either archive them or bring them back to top. So it's just like some sort of triaging. This is not many know of, or like this is not considered like a regular thing, but this is definitely, it's a good way to know a project. If you have a favorite project that you've been observing, or you want to know more about it, so the source code is all there on GitHub. This is a good way, like to go and look into the current issues, try to replicate them and see if you can reproduce those issues, and then go and tell, hey, you know what, I tried this. Or another way to help maintainers is if there is certain information that is missing on the issue. So it's like, I guess some people, they just write bugs, but do not write the underlying operating system, or do not write the current, like, node version, for example, or npm version, for example, because some issues are also based on the versions of other dependencies that you're running. This is, yeah, another way that you can help them extend the bug. Then another good way to help maintainers or to get involved with Hacktoberfest or to know about a project is look into the current open pull requests. Sometimes, yeah, maintainers like us, they are also like humans. They also have like their day-to-day lives. They have to take a pause or a break. What usually can help is you checking the pull request if everything works as expected, if some tests fail, or if the pull request has been hanging there for a long time. Follow up. You don't have to be a maintainer for this, right? So you can just be like a regular stranger, but who has tested this pull request. The pull request works as expected on your machine too. You can compare, like, if the pull request was initially tested on Linux, and if you are running on Windows, you can confirm, okay, it's also running fine on Windows or on Mac. So these are like non-traditional ways of, like, just again, both issues and pull requests, you have to run it. So this is some sort of a code related itself, but it's a non-trivial way to get involved by you not writing the code yourself directly, but just helping others about review others work on the internet, and give them feedback. Just ask them if you want to learn something, ask them about why did they choose this approach, etc. So these are, like, some non-conventional ways to get involved. Then there is this stuff, for this, you might want to have prior experience, not experience, a little involvement with the project itself or with the maintainers, to help them understand, do some project management work. So like I said, sometimes maintainers are, yeah, they have to do multiple things, and they might want some prioritization on issues itself, or somebody, like, just spend maybe 1 hour every day, or let's say, like, 4 hours per week, just to look into the project itself, understand what the project wants to do, just come up with a roadmap, what should community contributors should focus on for a given quarter, for example. So build some sort of like project management, or come up with like a product owner kind of a role, where you help them understand what their roadmap should be, what they can do with the project itself. So these are like another non-conventional ways. And then, like how Vani and Kashish mentioned, you can write technical documentation, which is, you can just write blogs, you can just help spread the word about a project, and then just do some design. If you're somebody interested in design, do some design. Yeah, so these are all, like, the different non-traditional ways, which may not be like, one-time click that comes in your brain when you listen, oh, open source contribution. And I think the traditional thing is to relate directly to code, but these are all, like, the different non-conventional ways. And then, of course, there is the research part, like what Vani mentioned about her project. So being able to research about a topic, and then give your insights, compare, like, 2 or 3 existing options, write detailed notes about it, and then propose like a better solution. So this is also like kind of tasks which are there. But to find all these tasks, you might want to understand about the project in prior, and then, or at least know maintainers, or participate in their Slack or Discord groups, to know what they want, and what help they want, which is why they may not be obvious from the outside. And it's also a little hard to tell which projects, like, might need this kind of support. But yeah, there are definitely, like, these kind of things where you can get involved. And yeah, it's a good way to use open source, like, like I said, to level up your skills if you want to change careers, or like, if you want to do some UX work. I guess these are all like good things to look into.
I think it was fun meeting new people. So, like, just to say that I networked a lot. I think that network is what you take away from it. So basically, like, considering that open source is not something where you'll get paid majority of the time. So there are some cases where you might get paid, but most of the cases you might not. So it's like a voluntarily you do it for the community's sake. So the community is something that you really, take away, which is kind of very much valuable, which is like not even measurable to the amount of money or something of that sort. So just to give a very brief example, so last summer I was associated with the Mozilla Open Builder program. So in that, what we basically had to do was we had a team of 4, and we had to propose our project and kind of work on it like a startup or something. So like an extension to what you do in a hackathon. So kind of start proposing stuff, you kind of do a market research on a very depth scale. So during that program, we didn't really move forward with our startup idea because of some constraints and other things. But the only thing which I still am continuing to go with is that team which I worked with together. So that team is something which I'm working right now with. So we like hop on a call, we chat together, we used to meet at 2:30 a.m. at night, and so that bonding is something which is unmatched, right? So the only valuable thing which you can get from it, and you should really work on getting, is the network that you start to build. The other thing being is that your technical knowledge increases exponentially. So currently, if I'm saying that I am working on cloud and AI at Microsoft, so obviously in my 9 to 6 job I don't really work on anything else apart from that particular thing. But when I'm contributing to open source very frequently, the latest technologies that are coming up. So if I'm interested in Python one day, I can just go and hop on a Python project and see what all I can contribute to, and maybe just, have 1 hour slot for myself and just, fix 1 or 2 bugs there. So that is something which will keep me growing and keep my learning on the right track, I believe. So even after when I look even after like 2 to 3 years, when I'm just bored with my particular job and I start to look for other roles, so I have another skill set which was building up on my side projects or something. So I have something going on there, I have more interest, my breadth of the knowledge and even depth in certain areas starts to increase.
Said, like, my open source experience has been all about networking and meeting people from a country which, like, they don't even have the same mother tongue as I have, and meeting people from different time zones and different cultures. So when I started out with outreach, I was initially, my project had to select only one intern. So I was thinking, okay, I'll work alone on my project and it would be just a smooth sail of 3 months. But when I got to know that I'll have another intern, and she's from Latin America, so that's a very complete turn of, like, very opposite cultures and opposite, like, everything. Like, she's like, her mother tongue is Spanish and my mother tongue is Hindi, so that was a very great difference. But still, we used to share a lot of insights from our cultures and used to have meetings outside of our work and just talked about us in general. So we became very good friends. And after, like, this internship ended, I got several opportunities to speak at webinars and share my experience and network with a lot of people. Like, during the GitHub field day, I got to meet a lot of community leaders, like, after I became one. So just meeting out people who contribute to other groups and manage other communities was a very good experience for me. And, like, just as Kashish said, like, after 2 3 years, when I start a job and I get bored of it, I can look out for roles like community manager and development engineer, because that's the thing that I am well versed with now, that I can manage a community and keep them engaged and come up with new ways to promote things on social media. So that's a skill set that I've gained from open source. And even my technical knowledge has expanded a lot, because I mostly researched on cybersecurity, which was a very new domain for me initially. But now I have a fair and sound knowledge of it. So even if I want to hop on cybersecurity research, I can do that as well. So, like, the networking and the technical skills that you get from open source is just unbound and unmatched.
I think I can go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just like to end this entire conversation by saying that no matter if you are capable enough to contribute, or even if you're just figuring out if you really belong in the tech world or not, just finding out your technical abilities and skill set and interest areas. I think what you can start with is just follow one particular thing that you really think would interest you. So I think I've spoken about this in my previous talks that I do. I'll just speak about it right now. So once you see that, web development, maybe I think I should try this out because I think I can build up something related to that. So once you jump into that, you have two options, right? You either are interested in it, you are not interested in it. So once you figure out that you're not interested, that is also a good way to progress. You're still progressing, right? So you found out that this is the area which you're not passionate about. So maybe you can try something apart from that area. So you can try maybe big data, maybe AI, maybe machine learning or something else. Then again, you'll have two other options. Maybe you like it or maybe you don't like it. So you're still making progress into that. And once you start exploring something out, one day you can just sit down and figure out an idea which you'd like to make into a reality. So engineering is all about having that magic in your hand. So whenever you come across and you think about something like, I think I can make a payments application, or maybe I can build something like a Zoom application and just add this particular feature there because I really want that to be there. So once you start having the idea, you can imagine what kind of users would be there, and that it can be a desktop application, right? So now you'll have another spot there to hop onto. Like maybe you should try desktop application, maybe you should try building using Electron because Electron is open source, or maybe you should try something else. So this is how the journey can start. This is how you can actually make your mark into technical area. And maybe after like 2 to 3 months or so, once you've done all of these things, once you've started to cross out certain paths and maybe go on to certain paths, you'll start to find your technical area, your expertise and stuff. And maybe that is when you can start looking out for main contributing to some projects. So right now you were just using different information and just trying things out from open source, just the forking some repository, trying that particular thing out. And maybe one day you'll realize that this is the bug here, or this is the feature that I would like to propose. So you can just go on and create an issue, start to work on it, ideate on that, and maybe just be a part of that entire community.
Yeah, like just as Kashish talked about progress, I just like to say that if you're figuring out stuff, like whether I like this domain or not, just keep on trying. Just don't lose hope. Like just when you encounter a repository or a project which has a huge code base, it might be a very natural feeling to feel hesitant at first. That okay, this is such a huge thing. How can I even understand this project and then start to contribute? But then I'd suggest to break it down to pieces and take it slow. It might even take you weeks and months to figure out the project that you want to contribute to before you even actually get your hands dirty with the code and just get started with the issues. So once you have decided that okay, this is the thing that I want to, just don't lose hope and don't get demotivated. Keep on working towards a goal and you'll definitely make it. I just
Yeah, it's also about to know that if a code base is huge, you don't have to like know everything, so that's also like the feeling that one has to ingest in. It's okay, like to just maybe make a very small like CSS change, for example, or just like maybe change the wording, for example, if something is not right. But then in turn you're helping like so many people who use it, and you don't have to like know like the bigger thing. So it's all about think big, but like start small, and you always have to start small, and like take these small steps, because if you don't start, then you will not even reach anywhere. So I guess this is how it is. And yeah, the learning experience can vary for person to person. So it doesn't mean like Vani, if at all, for example, she finishes like maybe like being able to do something in a day, and I might take a week. It's totally fine, because there is no like deadline anywhere. And yeah, this is another thing about each one's experience itself is so individual, so customized. All right, this was such a lovely chat. Thank you so much, Kashish and Vani, for joining us at the Open Source Chat Show.